Hello everyone, Namaste to all in the daily current affair analysis session from Vajiram and Ravi. Today is 19th of January and here are the articles which we'll be covering from the two prime newspapers, The Hindu and Indian Express. In the in-depth section, we'll be covering two articles. In the first one, we will see the causes and implication of declining fertility rate in India and across the world. In the second article, we will understand the significance of Svamitva Scheme for the socio-economic development of rural India. And then we will simplify 5 other articles for you, enriching them with prelims boosters. So obviously, to make the best out of the discussion, do not forget to download the handout PDF from the comment box and solve the quiz which will be there in the end of the video. So let's get started. Hello students, so let's get on with the first topic. This is about the declining fertility in India. This is not a new news actually. Ever since 2021 declaration of the Lancet report which highlighted that the world fertility rates are declining down, and so is the case for India, we are going to analyze the special case of India because recently another global study of diseases, the GBD study, has projected the TFR to fall further to 1.04 by 2100. This is the year by which 1.01 TFR would be achieved. Is this a good news or not? Let's analyze. But before that, what do we mean by TFR? And previously, the Lancet report suggested that we are going to fall by 1.09. But now, the estimates are showing us statistics of 1.04. So, what is exactly this total fertility rate? In very crude language, if I have to define it, it is how many births, live births, could a woman make in her reproductive age. This reproductive age is between 15 years to 1 less than 50 years, which is 49 years of age. The important point that I want to emphasize is, this is not the current rate of reproducing children, but it is a predicted and estimated one, just like how we estimate the economic growth. So similarly, this is something that is going to happen in future if a woman of reproductive age survives her entire reproductive year, which is from 15 years to 49 years, in current existing fertility rate. If both of these conditions are fulfilled, then in that case, how many children would a woman be able to bear? If it is 1.04, which means one woman will be in the entirety of its cycle will be able to bear just one child. And if it is, let's say 2, or if it is 3, which means in this entire cycle, in this rate of fertility, she will be able to bear 2 children or 3 children. So I hope the concept is clear. Moreover, you have to understand that this is a future prediction metric. This is not what currently is happening in the society. And so therefore, it's a grave concern as to whether our fertilities are declining and will it be a solution to the demographic explosion or whether it will be a hidden problem in itself. First, let's understand some of the human geography concept important for prelims. So first of all, we have to read the TFR trends not just in India but across the world. So across the world, you can see that there are 5 countries with highest TFR and most of them are located in the sub-Saharan Africa. So if I compare the trends between 1950 to the current 2021 trend, in 1950, the regions of the world experiencing the highest TFRs, highest productivity, reproductive rates were the Southeast Asian regions, the Oceania regions, the eastern side of the world basically. And now it is further moving towards the sub-Saharan Africa, which is now experiencing the highest TFR. The TFR is going up to 5.4 when it comes to the sub-Saharan ladies. So the shift has been seen. Here in 1950, it was the southeastern region, and now it has moved towards sub-Saharan region. It has also reduced by more than half. If you see in 1950, especially in the case of India, the TFR that we had was about 5. And now what we have is 2.1 and even less than that. Now currently it is 1.9. So it has been decreased by half, more than half. Okay. Now countries with the lowest TFR, as you can see, are South Korea. South Korea has the highest income of the Asia Pacific region. At the same time, here the TFR is the lowest. Then we have Puerto Rico, we have Taiwan, Serbia and Ukraine. So the regions are not specific to one particular geographical location, they are varied, but these are the countries you need to remember for having the lowest TFR. And when it comes to India, there are states, there is of course inequity, so there are states. For example, we have Bihar with TFR of more than 3, we have UP, we have Manipur, Meghalaya, some of these northeastern states surprisingly, who have got TFR more than the replacement rate. So here comes the next concept, which is what do we mean by replacement level fertility, or what is the replacement levels? So replacement level for India is considered as 2.1. What exactly does it indicate? It indicates that ideally how many children should be born or should be produced by a woman so that she is able to keep up with the current levels of population in the next generation as well. So for instance, right now we have got 1.5 crore people. So how many children do our women needs to produce so that we again create at least 1.5 crore people, so that it leads to the population stabilization. But right now, since we are less than this replacement level, which means this population can decline. We will be producing less number of people in the next generation, which could correspond to another thing which is known as aging population. In fact, it has been predicted by Lancet only that by 2050, 1 on every 5 Indian would be more than 60 years of age. Currently, our demographic dividend is very rich, which means the average age of Indian population is just 28 years. And therefore, we are talking about how we can preserve this demographic dividend from becoming a demographic disaster because of unemployment and other several issues. Now, the issue would be of increasing geriatric population and the related dependency problems. So we have understood what is TFR, what is replacement level fertility, what are the TFR trends and what are the future predictions. We have also learnt about the demographic shift. So what basically means is, for the southern states of India have got such a low TFR that it is way below the replacement level, and therefore they are concerned about their representation in the political institutions and several other places. So therefore, some of the states, for example Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, are also putting up certain policies where they are incentivizing people to reproduce more. And obviously, there will be certain demographic shift that would be observed coming from North India towards South India, because in the South India, the workforce crunch will naturally happen. So that will be filled by the surplus workforce who are also facing unemployment issues in the Northern India. So that demographic shift will also be seen. Now, talking about the India's demographic transition and what are the factors that have led to them. And this is not just of India but across the world. Some of them highlighted by the editorial, highlighted by the articles are, first of all, the empowerment. Then it is related to specifically the women empowerment, changing societal attitudes, career and financial independence, which women are preferring over motherhood, and then increasing number of young women and men opting to go abroad. So basically, it is highly likely that they are moving to abroad and then they are reproducing. So therefore, they are contributing to TFR of some other countries because of the growing migration. As you know, there is growing migration, outward migration from India to other countries, for example, Canada, USA, etc. Now, basically, if I have to really teach you as to what is influencing this reduction in fertility, there will be brought 2 factors. One are the enabler factors and the second are the disabler factors. Let's have a look into the enabler factor. One is the enablement and the empowerment of the bearer, that is the women. Now, she is being empowered because of rising employment opportunity. She is getting more educated. Therefore, she could exercise her control more over her reproductive processes and ages. And therefore, because she is having now more reproductive choices, she will also be opting for when to marry, if to marry or not, whether to use contraceptives or not. So first is the education and the empowerment of the bearer. Then is the empowerment or the empowering surrounding around her. For example, the growing scenarios where we have got safer spaces to work, safer spaces to study. So therefore, women are choosing to move abroad, women are choosing to pursue their career goals fearlessly. Why? Because of the conducive environment, conducive society, which is letting her do that. Safe environment around her, especially in the employment and education scenario, which is letting her do. Second is the partner, the nature of the partner of the bearer. So Herein, because the men are also equally educated, and therefore we are seeing that some enablers are contributing. Along with the enablers are also the contributors, which also reduces the child mortality. So there are certain disablers which have disabled the child mortality. These are, we have got immunization programs, we have got vaccination programs, we have got institutional deliveries, right? We have got institutional deliveries of women through various schemes, for example, Janani Suraksha Yojana. So through all of these things, even, and there is the child development scheme as well, integrated child development scheme from India. So with the help of all of these, we are disabling the child mortality rate. And as a result of this, there is no need to have a large family, because the rate of a child to survive in his lifetime, in his or her lifetime, is also increasing. So therefore, because of the improved health condition and the likelihood of the survival of child, there is no need to reproduce more and more, and therefore this is also leading to chosen reduction in the fertility levels. Okay, the other disabler, of course, is a bad one. It is the degrading health issues, the degrading health parameters of the women. For example, obesity, psychological factors like stress, etc. They are leading to decline in the fertility level, which has been highlighted by certain reports as well. Since the last 10 years, overall fertility of the women across the world has declined up to 20% because of the health related factors. Okay, so because of these, all of them together, we are able to see that a demographic transition is happening. So one reason, of course, is their better employment opportunity, which is economic development, social development is happening, low mortality rate, women empowerment is happening, health and lifestyle factor, which we have just discussed in disablers. So herein all the factors are included. Now, what are the supporting policies? Supporting policies by the government which has helped the women to exercise these choices. First and foremost is the National Family Planning Program. In 1952, India was the first country in the world to adopt for this plan, because at that time we were having a TFR of 5. Next, National Population Policy. The goal is to achieve the replacement level fertility rate, which means replacement level fertility rate for India is 2.1. So the goal was to achieve this. Have we achieved this? Yes. In fact, we have overachieved it. We have gone to 1.9. Then we have Janani Suraksha Yojana, which avails and aids and incentivizes the women to go for institutional delivery. So the cases of the child survival increases. Next is Mission Parivar Vikas. It is highly dedicated towards the fertility districts, which is high fertility districts having TFR more than 3. For example, we have UP, we have Bihar, Manipur, Meghalaya, etc. Then women have been empowered through Beti Bachao Andolan, through skill development programs, self-help groups. Improvement in their maternal and child healthcare is also one of the focus of government through various schemes. For example, the ICDA scheme. And certain states have also incentivized people for having small families, specifically Madhya Pradesh and some southern eastern states. Now, falling TFR is good or bad? Let's have an analysis on that. First of all, what is the significance of a falling TFR? Significance is basically to improve the efficiency. It will be definitely improving the efficiencies of major 3 areas. One is, it will enhance the economic efficiency, of course, the environmental efficiency, and the educational efficiency. How is it going to do it? Because it is going to enhance the number of jobs available per unit population, and therefore reducing the problem of unemployment. Therefore, when there are more people employed, their per capita income, their human development indicators will enhance. And of course, because we've got more resources to give to them now because of less competition, they might be getting better employment conditions as well. Next is, it will also enhance the environmental efficiency. If the total number of population is contracting, it essentially means that there will be lesser pressure on the environmental resources, for example, land, water, minerals, etc. Naturally, environment would be healthy, and we will be able to move towards more sustainable development. Next is the educational efficiency. Currently, what happens? Government has to educate everybody under certain fundamental right that they have been given. I expect you to know that fundamental right, because it's a very basic polity concept. Now, when government is spending so much on education and at the end of the tunnel seeing only few of them getting employed, basically the efficiency of education is getting degraded, is what government can observe. Once the population is decreasing, the total fertility rate is decreasing, government will be able to spend less because there will be less number of people enrolled in school, and as a result, because more jobs will be available in lesser competition, the educational efficiency, the education to job turnout will also enhance. So overall, I'm not going to talk about each and every significance, you can read it in the handout, but broadly we are going to enhance the efficiency in 3 E's. One is economy, environment and education. Now, what are the challenges related to falling fertility rate? If the population is decreasing, what will be impacted will be the productivity. The workforce productivity, because there will not be enough men. So probably migration would happen. If migration happens, then immigration tussles and political issues will happen. Next, it will increase in the dependent population, increase in the elderly population, which themselves require a lot of investment from the government. For instance, they have to be given insurance, they have to be given pensions, right? Then there will be skewed creative capacity. Why? Because only some population will really be able to productive or produce something worthwhile for the economy. The other sector of population will be completely dependent on them. Then there will be economic burden, there will be impact on national security as well, because the military age population will go down. And so, because of all these challenges, we need to cater certain way forward. So, what are the way forward? First and foremost is to enhance social security and the healthcare. Now we know that the population is going to age. Government should not reduce their funding, their expenditure on human development. Of course, it will be getting reduced from the child side, from the initial stages of human development, but towards the final stages of human ages, that is in their senile population, their old population, that is when the government needs to put more impetus, more expenditure. Therefore, adequate provisions for elderly should be made. Next is, this will also reduce the dependent ratio. So one such very good example is a case study of Switzerland, where they have the time bank concept. So time bank concept says that a child will be helping his or her elderly, and therefore all the time that has been spent in helping out the elderly would be taken up in the time bank of this child. So later when he turns old, he will be able to claim these number of care hours from some other child. And that we can also get inspired from. Next is to maximize the demographic dividend by using the working age population effectively. How to do that? By ensuring that we are creating more number of jobs. Then skill development is required, diversification of employment is required, so that not every focus is made on the formal sector only. Agriculture is also growing, MSME is also growing. The formal and informal economy, more formalization of the economy is happening. That is required. Technological, skill-based development is required. Education investment has to be made, especially in the middle and the higher education, so that we are retaining our population. They are not going away to US, Canada for seeking better opportunity. This will further make our population more aged and more dependent, as we can see in the case of Germany, South Korea, Japan, etc., where because of the aging population, they are seeing about 0% growth in the economy ever since 2010. And then we also need to provide some free of cost reproductive health services support to all the couples. Then to get inspired from the best practices across the world. Do you know the best way to encourage enhancing fertility is to tell to the parents that we will provide for your parental leave, and this should not be just maternity leave but also paternity leaves. This is already done in Germany, by the way, to enhance the fertility levels. Next one is to incentivize the people to do that. For example, Telangana government is creating policies on that. China has been creating policies on that. Similarly, we have got financial incentives in Poland, Russia, China, etc. Then state-funded IVF should be there. Reproductive healthcare services matching this. Hungary has nationalized IVF clinics. So when we will look into the way forward in this manner, we will be able to strike a balance which is required to create optimum population that is required. Neither the declining nor the exploding population. We need to strike a balance, a middle path here. Now, here is a question which you can try to attempt. Next is about Svamitva Scheme analysis, because recently PM Modi has distributed 65 lakh property cards across 12 states and union territories, which makes us understand that not in all the states Svamitva Scheme has been rolled out. It is getting rolled out in phase-wise manner. Okay, so In the Indian Express, however, they have written that property cards under Swamitva will unlock the economic activity of 100 lakh crore rupees. How is it possible, and therefore why is the scheme very important for specifically the rural development of India? We will see here. First of all, let me introduce to you, which is also important from prelims point of view, the Swamitva scheme. So, on the Panchayati Raj Day, that is April 24th, 2020, that is when the Ministry of Panchayati Raj had launched a scheme which is able to provide you the right of your land records. So what are you going to get now? Right of land record, specifically in the rural areas. This is dedicated for the rural area of the India, and in the rural area only you have got inhabited areas and you have got non-inhabited areas. So which one would be requiring more interventions, more record of rights? Of course, the inhabited or the Abadi area. So it is focused towards creating or digitizing or mapping the record of right for all the people in a phased-wise manner in the Abadi areas of rural India. Okay. A fascinating thing about this scheme is that it is going to use technology, one that is going to be installed on area level, second on the land level. On land level, there's going to be a coarse network, and on the area level, there's going to be a drone. And both of them together will be able to map a particular area and designate it by the name of the property owner, right? So this is how you're going to get the digital assurance from the government created on technical or scientific lines, created by technical devices, so that you are assured that you are the legitimate property owner. Because I'll tell you a case study. Because recently, one of my students came to me and told me the exact problem she and her family was facing, especially she and her mother. So they were battling a lot of inheritance property issues. One of the biggest reasons was that the agreements were made, but they were hereditary, or they were in the form of inheritance, customary, or just the oral agreements. They were not written agreements. So therefore, the other family members were now exploiting it, and therefore this was causing even death threats to their family. A lot of legal cases are going on. So such cases, such legal disputes, such land related disputes are very common in India, specifically the rural India, and therefore it leads to a lot of stiflement in the development also, and you all must be agreeing to this as well. Therefore, a lot of ministries are coming together, specifically the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, then the Panchayati Raj departments of all the states. Then of course it requires some money, so the revenue department of all the state and the Survey of India for conducting this drone analysis, spatial analysis. All of these four wings are coming together so that we are able to create the record of right for the population of rural India. What are the potential impacts that this scheme will be having? Of course, empowerment in all the areas. Because now you are assured of having your own property, you will now be able to put it as a collateral in front of the bank to get the credit. So therefore, this will also eliminate the informalized middleman problem of lending activity in rural India. So therefore, they will now be having more institutional loans, and they will definitely be getting more loans more frequently without any cross questioning. So this will create a very good collateral system for them. So therefore, economic prosperity will happen. Next is it will also ensure social equity. Think about the most marginalized section in the rural society, the women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and also the sharecroppers, the tenant croppers. They are hardly recognized of any right, even if they rightfully have so. Now with this case, they will be having at least a joint equity, they will be having certain name, an official name in the record, and therefore this will also enhance the social equity in the rural India. Next is, it will also reduce the number of disputes. Most of the disputes, in fact, it has been estimated that more than 60% of the overall legal disputes in the rural India happens because of the land dispute only. And this goes to more than up to 80% of the total disputes when it comes to tribal lands, right? So therefore, it will also reduce the disputes. It will also enhance the governance. Why governance? Because first of all, if the government has mapped the Abadi areas, it will be able to rightfully collect the property tax, which many people were evading previously. So property tax will be there. Second, they will be able to have smooth acquisition of the land so as to construct infrastructure developmental projects, specifically roads under the PM Gram Sadak Yojana. So there will be more easy acquisitions, smooth acquisitions by the government. So this will definitely increase the development. And when it comes to development, all the panchayati areas have got the district panchayat development plans. And these district panchayat development plans are often stifled because they do not know the exact area and which area is owned by which person, and therefore the acquisition becomes very difficult. But now with this mapping process, it will be fixed. So hence, it will enhance our infrastructure development as well. And therefore, it will be able to activate economic activity of more than 100 lakh crore as promised by our Prime Minister. Now, what are the challenges and henceforth the way forward? Some of the few challenges, of course, are absence of clear legal validity. As of now, if this question comes to you in prelims, that these Bhu Aadhars or these Swamitva cards are legally binding, the answer would be no. It is not legally binding because it is not encoded by any legal provision of India as of yet. But that is required because it is just merely giving me this satisfaction that I own something, but I will not be able to stand tall in the court of law because it is not legally binding as of yet. So it needs to be made legally binding. That is the first way forward and henceforth solution of this challenge. Next, there are variation in land record practice across the state. Different states collect their taxes in different forms, do these mapping assessing in different forms. Karnataka, by the way, was the first state who did this project Bhumi, where it for the first time ever digitized the entire land records. But this practice is carried by different states at different pace, different parameters. This needs to be centralized. So for that, what we need to do, we need to create an integrated digital land record, which we are already doing in a project. So the Swamitva record also needs to be put in the same. Now the next one, my dear student, is to include the marginalized communities. Yes, there will be women, there will be SC, ST and sharecroppers, but we need to ensure that they're actually getting their rights. They're actually getting ownership of their rightful lands. One such example has been beautifully seen in the case of Haryana. So in Haryana, there is joint ownership, mandatory joint ownership of the women along with her husband on any parcel of land. So this will enhance the social equity in the region. Okay. Next is empowering the Gram Panchayat in the southeastern state. Why is the need? Because in most of the southeastern states, the Gram Panchayat are not empowered enough to collect the property taxes, which is marring the collection of the effective resources, the effective money that the state could get from these areas. So they need to be empowered uniformly as it is done for the rest of the country. Next is the need for robust grievance and redressal mechanism. Now that we have got property cards now, these property cards and these property ownership will also now be attracting some backlashes, some property cases. So there needs to be creation of committees at every Gram Panchayat level so that they can be resolved amicably and it does not lead to piling of more cases. Next is adherence to the Open Geospatial Consortium guidelines. See, if I follow certain practice, for example, if my IIT follows certain practices, it means if it is of the global standard, it will be complied, it will be respected all across the world. But let's say if I have a scheme, if I have a college which is not complying to the global standard, then my scheme, my college or whatever institute I'm working in will not hold any ground in the global, in the world scenario, right? International scenario. So there is an international guideline which is known as Open Geospatial Consortium. The current Swamitva scheme is not completely compliant with it. And that could raise an issue because they probably will not be giving us validation that these property rights are actually right or not, they are true or not. So we need to ensure that as much as possible, we are adhering to these guidelines, okay? And this, by the way, is already made sure by the National Geospatial Policy 2022. So we just need to put everything into paper and work. Next, there will be technical challenges. We are operating drone. There are not much people who are that technically sound. Second, people are not much aware of the internet. Internet penetration is less than 30% in the rural area. So that could be a technical challenge. Awareness and resistance would be there because a lot of people, especially the tribal people, they know that their lands are customary. They are inherited. They do not have any written ownership on it, but there is a verbal, there is a oral ownership on it, and that creates a lot of problem because they know that once this Swamitva Bhukad starts rolling out, they will be encroached from their land. Okay. Next is there could be coordination issues between several ministries. There could be data management related issues, especially the cyber safety, the cyber security of the entire data that has been created. So then what can we do? Awareness of the people, inclusion, enhancing internet penetration, which is already being done with Digital India Initiative, and ensuring cyber security. Alright students, here is a question for you. I hope if you have heard all of it carefully, you will be able to at least brainstorm it, and I would really appreciate if you can do that. Now the next topic, student, is a very interesting one because recently Singapore's president, if you're preparing for the state examination, please remember the name as well, has recently visited the Sun Temple at Konark in Odisha on Saturday. Now this is very important for prelims point of view because Sun Temple specifically has been a sweet spot in UPSC where they have asked a lot of questions from, right? It obviously corresponds to JS paper 1 where we read about the architecture. Okay, now first of all, from prelims point of view, let's very quickly locate where Sun Temple exactly is located. So as you can see, it is located very near to the city, capital city of Odisha, Bhubaneswar. So it is located at this coastal city where it is in the Konark, and therefore it is known as Konark Sun Temple. You can also see some other sun temples, for example, Modhera Sun Temple of Gujarat. There is Mulatan Sun Temple, which is situated in Pakistan, and Martand Sun Temple, which is in Kashmir. Okay, remember these. Now let's see who has created this temple. So of course, the dynasty which was ruling back then was the Eastern Ganga dynasty in the Kalinga region. This temple got constructed therefore in the 13th century, specifically in 1250 AD by Narsimha I. Do not confuse it with the Narsimha Varman, who was of Pallav dynasty. This is Narsimha I, and it got accorded as the prestigious UNESCO status of World Heritage Site in 1984. The first World Heritage Sites were Agra Fort, that was Taj Mahal, Ajanta and Ellora Caves, and these were accorded the status in 1983, just one year ago, and in 1984 it got accorded as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now type of architecture which follows over here naturally would be Kalinga architecture. The very unique feature in the form of description, it could be asked that it is created in the form of a chariot temple where about 24 wheels are there. It is pulled by 6 horses of sun god, right? So it is of the orientation of a chariot, as you can see, and it is oriented towards the east, and that is how most of the sun temples and Jyotirlings are oriented, so that the rays of sunlight, so that the sanctum receives the first of the sunlight. Next, the temple is built from Khondalite rock, and this is the reason why it was called Black Pagoda, but this name was actually given by British because this was a very important navigational point for them to understand whether they are moving towards the Indian side or the Indonesian side. Next is, the temple remains a site of contemporary worship of Hindu because a very important festival, Chandrabhaga festival, is celebrated in this temple around the month of February, which is about to come. Now, I was about to tell you the importance of sun temples in India. A lot of times they have asked question, 2 times actually, Arsavali, Amarkantak, Omkareshwar. Among which of the following are the famous sun temples? So only Arasavali is a famous sun temple. Now, taking cue from the previous year question, had you prepared for Sun Temple? This was a very easy question for you. So let's learn the other prominent Sun Temple. There is Martand in Jammu Kashmir. There is Brahmanya Dev Temple in Madhya Pradesh. There is Modhera, very famous one in Gujarat. Please note it down as well. Then there is Arasavali, the one we saw in PYQ. This is in Andhra Pradesh. Then there is Dakshinarka in Bihar. There is Surya Pahad in Assam. There is Karatmal Surya Temple in Uttarakhand, and there is Suryanar Kovil in Tamil Nadu. So these sun temples you need to note down and remember. The next prelims booster is on a very highly talked about topic, which is, can Bhopal waste be safely disposed of? Why are we reading? Very quickly understanding the context that recently Madhya Pradesh government authorities have moved a lot of tons of hazardous waste coming from the very infamous Union Carbide factory of Bhopal, situated in Bhopal, which is the capital city of Madhya Pradesh. There, a lot of hazardous waste was moved from Bhopal to another district, Dhar, which is Pithampura industrial area of the Dhar district, right? Now, High Court has set a 4-week deadline for authorities to dispose of this waste completely, and it is going to be disposed of in a phase-wise manner, evaluating the impact on biodiversity, human, the environment, etc., phase by phase, right? But why Pithampura was chosen, do you know, students? So, Pithampura is an industrial area which is the only facility in the state of Madhya Pradesh which has got the TSDF, that is treatment, storage and disposal facility of waste all in one place. So it has got not just the storage facility but also the incinerators in there, right? And that is why this site was chosen. Of course, there will be trial run, and there was trial run, and through that trial run it was seen that the emission from the trials were under the permissible limits of exposure so that it doesn't harm the human health, and no adverse effect on environment and public health were observed, right? Now let's talk about Bhopal gas tragedy. Very, very quickly, important topic for prelims. So Bhopal gas tragedy, unfortunately, one of the biggest chemical disasters, industrial disasters that took place ever since 1919, struck itself in the night of 2 to 3rd, in between 2 to 3rd of December in the year 1984, which led to triggering of lot of governmental regulations, which we'll be seeing. So the culprit was a fertilizer unit, which was known as the Union Carbide factory. Union Carbide factory, which was located, and it was comprising of a lot of chemicals, harmful, toxic, hazardous chemicals, which could potentially be very harmful for the human beings and for the life altogether. So a lot of containers were there, right? A lot of containers were there, and they were already not being kept in the best of the condition. They require certain amount of temperature, pressure. The refrigeration was not very good. Safety standards were not good. Any emergency plan was not out there. So you are already very vulnerable. And that too, somehow a lot of water entered into this. Now, if a lot of water enters into a gas tank, it will create exothermic process. It will lead to a blast of the tank, and therefore a cloud, tons of methyl isocyanate evaporated outside from the factory, killing a lot of people, in fact impacting more than 6 lakh overall people around the area. So this gas is methyl isocyanate gas. This gas name is also very, very important. Now, looking at the implications of all of these, government was quick to formulate all these legislations having certain meaning of their own. First was the Bhopal Gas Leak Disaster Act of 1985. This was to ensure that the central government takes in its hand all the right to represent the people who were aggrieved, all the rights to restore the compensation for the people who were aggrieved out of this disaster. So this gives central government the right to act on the behalf of such people. Second was the Environmental Protection Act 1986, which was inspired by Bhopal gas tragedy, to take care to ensure that the industries are in compliant. The industries like Union Carbide, fertilizer plants are in compliant with the environmental standards. They are not harming the environment in any way, and if they do, they have got certain penalty to pay. And not only that, these operators of such plants, such fertilizer plant, hazardous plants, atomic plants, these operators have to be liable. They have to be responsible enough to create insurance for everybody, for the public safety. So some amount they have to deposit with the government for creating insurance for any public liability that could happen or civil liability that could happen, right? So the operators need to insure in some amount with the help of these two acts. So this question can come, these acts can come, you should be able to identify them. And now we will move to the next one, in which, in calibrated move, RBI loosens grip, lets rupee depreciate against US dollar. Since a lot of months you are reading about this, that rupee is depreciating. In fact, it has depreciated to its record low rate yesterday. In fact, it has depreciated to its record low rates a week back. So it has depreciated how much? 2.12% against the US dollar. What does it mean? If rupee is depreciating against a particular currency, which means some factor is strengthening that currency up, which basically means if I were as an Indian, I wanted to purchase $1. Previously, let's say by 2019, I needed just to pay 69 rupees. And now to purchase $1, I have to give them 86 rupees. So who is getting stronger here? The dollar is getting strong, the rupee is getting depreciated. But still, such a huge drop has happened, and the drop has happened, and still RBI is not taking any proactive measure. What could be the reason? The first reason is depreciating rupee is not necessarily a bad thing for the economy. Let's first understand the concept. Now let's assume there were two countries who were manufacturing an umbrella. One was China and the other was India. Okay. Now India produced it at the cost of 400 rupees per unit, whereas China created it in $5, rupees. Now, of course, here, if the rupee, if the dollar is weak, the China definitely has created, let's say the dollar is at 60 rupees. Then in that case, China essentially has created this product in 300 rupees. Of course, in this case, Whose exports will be pumped up? China's, because they are more cheaper as compared to Indian export. But when, let's say, the dollar enhances its value, or the dollar strengthens, or the rupee depreciates, in that case, we have seen, let's see, this value becomes 86 rupees. 86 rupees for $1, which means depreciation of the rupee has happened. In this case, China is producing the same thing at 425 rupees. And Indian manufacturing unit rate has remained same. In this case, who has leveraged the global competitiveness? Naturally, India. So these kind of depreciation and strengthening of the other currency actually helps to boost the Indian export. Definitely it will, because the export is boosting. So now I will be able to produce something at a higher price, which means now the Chinese dumping can't happen into my market. So now my domestic producers will be more incentivized to produce, and therefore it will improve the domestic production. Of course, now coming to my country would be more cheaper, especially for the foreign tourists who are earning in dollars, spending in dollars. So therefore it will also boost the tourism industry of our economy. And of course, there will be certain negative impacts. If import is boosting, of course, I will not be able to purchase things because the dollar purchases will become expensive for me. So this will make the imports very costlier for me. I will reduce the import. This will therefore widen the deficit. This will therefore make the debt servicing very high for me. This will also impact the outbound travel and education. We will not be able to go for the tours outside, right? We will not be able to go outside for education, etc. So these are the negative impacts. But why RBI is not doing anything? Because for that, you have to understand what is the factor influencing the current exchange rate. Overall, it is the growing demand of US dollar, because it can be seen that the US macroeconomic data has become stronger than expected, which means they are showing that their inflation is regulated, their unemployment levels have gone down. So USA is showing good and healthy signs of an economy. Second, now elections have also happened, and at least till 20th of January, that is till tomorrow, the same trend of falling, depreciating rupee could be seen. Then it depends upon what policies are made by Trump. Next is the bond yields are also rising sharply in USA, which means that a lot of bonds are being purchased there. So therefore, most of the FPIs are moving away from India and the other Asian economies and moving towards USA. Now please understand this as well. When I am saying the rupee is depreciating, USA has got no asset rivalry against Indian rupee. It is against the entire Asian currencies. And in fact, in that case, why RBI is little comfortable and secure? Because it knows that that rupee is still much stable as compared to the fall down experienced by other Asian currencies. Because you see, how much are we falling in front of dollar? Only 2.3%. Then you talk about Taiwan, you talk about Philippines peso, you talk about the Korean won, Japanese yen, etc. Right? So they are falling much below because of the US economy. And of course, the other factors which could influence the exchange rate is the trade deficit, inflation, high inflation, capital outflows from the economy, the global factors, for example, any kind of turbulence, Israel-Hamas war, or be it Ukraine war, Russia war, which could interrupt our export-imports, and the trade restriction because of the sanctions, there are some policies by USA. So in such a scenario, what exactly could RBI do? First is to release the amount of dollars in Indian economy, so that its demand can be regulated, right? So for that, it needs to release its forex. So actually, RBI has already done it. See, forex is already down to $11.8 billion rupees. You can see that RBI has been releasing its forex reserves since September 27, 2024, last year. Since then, they have been decreasing their reserves. So reserves are declining. Rupee is also declining, of course, and if further RBI takes any action and declines these forex reserves more, then the existing FPIs and FDIs will also evade away, because they may think that the rupee is degrading, because they may think that the economy is not very strong because of the low forex reserves, and therefore RBI cannot afford to release more forex, release more dollars into the market. Okay, and now students, we will boost our biodiversity knowledge with the help of this interesting article. So a survey adds 24 new species to Munnar's faunal stock. Munnar as such is not a wildlife or a biosphere reserve, but the wildlife division of Munnar, as you can see, includes a lot of sanctuaries. For example, Iravikulam, Anamudi, Pambadum, Mathikettan, all of them are included into Munnar Wildlife Division only, therefore surveyed together. It is mostly known for some of the endangered species, for example, lion-tailed macaw, for example, Nilgiri teher, and we have grizzled squirrel. So they are found here in specifically in the Munnar division. This is different from the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, which is in convergence of 3 states, and you know that, right? Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. This is where the Nilgiri Reserve is located, and the national parks of Nilgiri, because it has been asked in UPSC, are the Silent Valley National Park, the Wayanad Sanctuary, the Neyyar Sanctuary. And now we will talk about the species that have been seen and how to identify them. So you have to remember the Anamalai Sholaki also. Why Sholaki is used? Because it is blue in color, and we've got the Shola forests, right? So these Shola forests are the high montane forest which are unique. Why? Because let's say in the peak here is a montane forest, and then they are followed up by rolling grasslands. So it is immediately followed by grasslands. Okay. Therefore, these are very unique montane forests which are particularly found in the Nilgiris and in the Munnar region. And it is also famous for Neelakurinji, which grows every 12 years. You must be knowing about it. Then, so we have understood that Sholakili is a bird. Remember that. Bush brown, bush brown is a butterfly. And the darter, red bean darter, is an insect. UPSC has asked question on all of them. That which of the following the mentioned species are animals, or are they birds, or are they butterflies or not. So let me just bring in some question for you. For instance, in 2021, with reference to India's biodiversity, Ceylon frogmouth, coppersmith barbet, grey chin, mini-wet and white-throated redstart, what are they? So here also you can see that somehow the color is represented, right? Or the place is represented. So the answer was bird. The last year they asked about cicada, etc. So those were insects. So we need to understand these species. Then they have particularly asked about a lot of national parks of Kerala. So you have to remember that Iravakulam has been asked. So is Hulog gibbon found there? Can you tell me where exactly is Hulog gibbon found? Is it in South India or is it in East India? Northeast India? Try to answer that. And Iravakulam, I have already told you, is famous for the 3 species that I have just narrated. So you should be taking notes of it. Then with reference to which of the following national park is situated entirely in Kerala, you again try to answer this one. Which of them is entirely in Kerala? So as you can see from the map, Silent Valley is completely found, right? Now the last topic, which is about the Assam Rifles. So why is this a news? Because in the first ever integration training organized by which body? By Assam Rifles. The recruits from all the 3 communities who were actually rivaling with each other, the Meeti community, Kuki-Zo and Naga community, they all have came together because a conference, an integration training conference and exercise was organized by the Assam Rifles. And they have talked about multiple things. For example, that the ethnic violence affected state should be brokered by a neutral third party. All of them are agreeing to it. They also agree that negotiations are must. Weaponization of the youth in society has been done. Most of them are agreeing to it. And the major reason of this weaponization, radicalization, is fake news. So they are being trained to counter and understand the difference between true news and fake news, and also whether they are getting radicalized or not. So all of this training is going on. The important point is about Assam Rifle. Assam Rifle is the oldest paramilitary force in India. Okay, it starts its lineage from the British colonial legacy, where it was a paramilitary police force in 1835 known as the Kachar Levy. Okay, and then it got evolved into Assam Frontier Force, then into Assam Military Police Force, and finally into Assam Rifles. So this name came in 1970. Okay, now this one is responsible for ensuring the law and order in the northeast states and also particularly in the Indo-Myanmar border region. Now, it is the only paramilitary force in India with dual control structure, which means the administrative part of it will be controlled by Ministry of Home Affairs. Therefore, it was Amit Shah who organized this integration training. Okay, next, operational control is obviously, because they need military skills, so it is operated by Indian Army under the Ministry of Defence. What is the motto of Assam Rifles? It is the Friends of the Hill People, to set up the right narration. And the headquarters, this is very, very important because it is called Assam Rifles, but the headquarters is in Shillong, the capital of state of Meghalaya. So this was all about today's Analyst. Along with this, an extra mile, you can read on these 3 other articles as well. We have already talked about long COVID what are the symptoms of the other COVID patients, then what is the difference between RNA, DNA, you should be knowing, it is asked in UPSC. Then you should know this trend, especially for mains, that the outward FDI is rising by 17%, okay. So this is all about today's analyst discussion. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much, students. Have a nice day.